my parents and saying, this is crazy. And my dad said, well, why don't you run? And I thought about it for a bit, and I said, you know what? Why not?
Certainly.
And, I actually, we were nominated at the town caucus a few months after that, and I was, for a good period of time, campaigning weekends while I was still in college. So I was heading back from Boston to Wales in order to be in the community to knock doors on the weekends and ensure I was attending events. And then we graduated, with full court press for about just under 3 weeks, and I ended up winning my first seat by 33 votes, believe it or not.
Wow.
It's living proof that every vote does in fact count.
It's
And that started kind of a public service belief in my view that it's important for folks that have, different types of backgrounds get involved in public service. We got a lot of lawyers in government. We got a lot of lobbyists. Don't always have a lot of common sense.
That's true.
I don't come from a background where I had a silver spoon in my mouth. I was the first of my family to graduate from college. My parents helped as much as they could, but it really required me to work summers and to work while I was in school to help pay my way through. And I'll tell you, you learn a lot when you have to do that because you've earned it, you worked for it, and there's something to be said for that.
And speaking about earning some stuff here, again, as you're currently elected as the chairman for the Tantascwa Regional School Committee, and you're chairman. And I guess it's been like 60 years since somebody was elected chairman. I really don't know how that can actually happen, but you're kind of a groundbreaking guy. And one of the things I want to talk to you about, since you're on the school committee, is obviously, as you well know, Common Core is coming down the pike fast and headlong at all of us. And I've been covering the story for my show and for the Worcester Herald, and I've been attending some events. I'm going to be filming an event tomorrow night where Donna Calorio, who works in the Worcester School Committee, she's been very active in stopping, she's part of the Stop Common Core Forum. And, as a school committee member, what are you hearing in your area, and as a candidate, what are you hearing from the people out there as you talk to them?
Yeah, well, I will, we'll dive right into that, but just to kind of clarify, the 60-year statistic is the first member from my town, it's a 5-town region. So I'm the first ever in the district history from my hometown to be chairman.
I get
and we were pretty proud of that fact.
Sure, of course.
Relative to Common Core, I've been kind of one of the leaders against this fundamental change to our curriculum, since its inception. In fact, I was the only member of my school committee that actually took a day off from work and went into Boston to testify against Common Core.
Really?
Because I believe then, and I still believe today, that it's just not the right direction for Massachusetts. I'm not somebody that isn't willing to listen and isn't open to change and isn't open to new ideas. But part of being open to change and open to new ideas is actually ensuring the process is open. And, Common Core was adopted by unelected bureaucrats from the Department of Education behind closed doors. Even today, to this day, 5 years later, Chris, not a single vote of the legislature to make the curriculum change to Common Core. And that concerns me. It concerns me for a number of reasons. But when we're talking about education of our kids, and I think that that's something that we need all parties and all stakeholders involved in: parents, students, teachers, superintendents, principals, community members. I don't think a bureaucratic agency that's not accountable to anybody but the governor should be making major structural curriculum changes without consulting the very people that it's going to impact. And that's the way this rolled out in Massachusetts. And so, from a process perspective, I was opposed to it from day one. But even now, post the process issues, we've started to see that the relative costs associated with the adaptation of Common Core. We've seen that there's really no increase in the rigor relative to Common Core as far as the standards go. And so the proof has truly been in the pudding that this was something that I think that the governor did as a favor to the president. And I can understand helping out friends from time to time, but this isn't mowing your neighbor's lawn. This is changing the curriculum and the standards for the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I was actually the first class in Massachusetts years is we've seen, changes to MCAS to improve it. And at the end of the day, what I like most about it is it was ours. It was ours to address. It was ours to correct. It was ours to improve.
Mm-hmm.
And Common Core, we just don't have a lot of control over it. And, I've got concerns with that.
I don't blame you, because, yeah, that is. I mean, it's quite literally top down, and I read the Carter diaries, and there were sections in there about the arguments that Carter had with Joseph Califano when he developed the Department of Education. And one of the things Califano always said was the federal control of education is the federal control of ideas. And I mean, that we've seen a dumbing down over the years, over the decades of our not only just high schools and some of our colleges, but even just right into the elementary and the preschool areas. I mean, everything is really watered down to not only just kind of bring the kids who aren't adept at education up, but it brings everybody down, and it just kind of lowers the entire standard. And what does this mean for us as a community, as a state as well? I mean, if we're looking to try to bring in more jobs, you hear politicians talking about jobs is going to be my number one issue, when I get elected. But what caliber of individual are we going to have to work these supposed jobs that they're supposed to bring in? I mean, what does the future look like?
You bring up a great point because, I've long said that our major issues in Massachusetts weren't that we had rigorous academic standards. Certainly there's always room for improvement, and I think always room to kind of adapt over time to change your standards with the changes in society. But this was just a structural change that was really unknown and still continues to be. And I think if we're going to get serious about tackling what I do agree is the economic and jobs issues in Massachusetts, then we need to take a focus on that, and we need to be making sure that when we're making major policy changes, that we're making them to improve the climate for people to live and work in Massachusetts. I mean, right now we've got some of the best colleges in the world in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
No one would argue with that.
Yeah.
But the problem you're seeing, Chris, is that as soon as folks graduate, there are fewer and fewer opportunities for them to be able to stay in Massachusetts. So, what's great is we provide them a phenomenal education. We prepare them, for the future. And then as soon as, they graduate, don't let you have to leave because either A, they can't afford to live here, or B, there aren't opportunities for them to actually stay here.
Exactly. So,
part of what we've done on this campaign is, I take a business tour weekly. And I do that because in this 28-town district, we have a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. Companies that employ, between 2 and 50 people.
Yeah.
Lots of those types of businesses. And when I'm having conversations with them and say, what can we do to help empower? Of course, we can talk taxes, and of course, we can talk regulation, and I'm happy to do that. But, since we're still on education, let's stay there for a minute. One of the things these folks say is, hey, listen, we have apprenticeships or partnerships with some of our vocational programs, vocational schools throughout the district. I was talking to Doug Sterritt, a good friend of mine who owns Sterritt Tool up in Athol. And, Doug said to me, he goes, Mike, I have to bring in somebody, and I have to train him for 4 years. And so I have to be willing to take that risk and make that investment, hoping that individual is going to stay here for 15, 20 years, and then I'm going to get a good return on the training investment. Yeah. Imagine if we had a partnership with a vocational school where we could actually have a student in his junior and senior year spend a block or two in the workforce, in an environment where they're actually getting on-the-ground training. Mm-hmm. So it does a couple of things. One, it gives them real-world experience, which is great for the academic side of the house. And two, it helps our businesses be able to continue to create opportunities in Massachusetts. Now, that's where we should be focusing model changes in education. That's where I think we can actually get a good return on evaluating where change is good in our educational standards. And unfortunately, like oftentimes in Massachusetts, our eye just isn't on that ball.
That's unbelievable. And I remember I graduated in '82. So, that's why there's gray hair on my head. But where I was in Northborough at Algonquin Regional, but a lot of the kids from the Northborough, Marlborough, Westborough, and Southborough area, they were able to go to Assabet Valley in Marlborough, which was a vocational school. They had that program. Not only was it a vocational school, but in your junior year, you would actually, depending on your grades, if you're doing well in school, you could actually sign up and go work at a job related to whatever whatever vocation it is you're majoring in. And a lot of these kids, I grew up obviously after high school. I mean, a lot of these kids went on to start their own businesses or just stay with the companies, and they became senior managers or partners or whatever. This I don't see that. I'm not. Is that still in existence, or is what you're saying that we've we've taken our eye off the ball, and that just doesn't exist anymore, does it?
Well, what I hear from a lot of business leaders in Massachusetts as I've been touring through this campaign, and don't forget, my career's been in the private sector.
Right.
So this isn't something I just kind of started to look at as I've been campaigning. This is something I've lived for the last 10 years. And when I talk to business leaders, whether it's at a corporation like EMC where I work, or it's at a smaller firm, like Incon Corporation in Charlotte, or a medium-sized business like Starrett Tool and Asphalt, it's the same response. They say, Mike, we want to create more opportunities. We want to have more jobs for people, but we never know one day to the next what tax might increase, what regulation might change.
Yeah.
And they all say the same thing to me. You look at a company like Starrett Tool, who's been here for hundreds of years. Doug looks right at me and he says, Mike, if I was building now, I wouldn't even look at Massachusetts.
Yeah.
That isn't the type of response
Yeah.
we want to hear if we're going to be serious about creating new jobs. And by the way, we haven't created a net new one in Massachusetts. Net new job, that is, since Val Patrick became governor.
Isn't that incredible? That is
we haven't created a net new job. It's a shocking shame.
Yeah, no, you're not. You're preaching to the choir almost here, because I was just talking to Jacques Perrault last night on the show, and all the candidates that I've interviewed over the past few months, we're all on the same page, and we keep seeing that time and time again. Everybody that I've talked to says basically plus or minus what you just said. They talk to businesses, and they're just being crushed by the regulations. They're being crushed by the legislation. But then again, you have a candidate, or even you have somebody who's seated up on Beacon Hill. Oh, we've got to create jobs. We've got to make jobs our number one opportunity. And I compare it to a square peg into a round hole. And it's like it's just not fitting here. And so our legislators, they've got to... Not only they've got to come on, they've got to get on board here, and I mean, this is one of the great things I love about people like you running, and some of the other candidates that I've interviewed. Everybody knows what the problem is, and they're all going to go in there and they're focused on changing it. So here comes the question: you get elected, how do you see a fundamental change? Let's say a lot of you guys get elected, and there's a sea change up on Beacon Hill. Are you guys going to like caucus together and try to, let's look at what is, excuse my French, screwed up here in the state, and go by it one by one, line by line, and just either fix it or get rid of it? Is that kind of one of your plans?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly, strength comes in numbers, and with the legislature being so lopsided, we can't lever to one side of the political ledger.
Yeah.
It certainly made it difficult. Over the last few years to be able to push forward some impactful legislation. But based upon the response I'm hearing when I'm out talking to folks, the answers are pretty simple. We're tired of the direction we're headed in.
Yeah.
We want to change course, and we know we need new people to do it. And I say, simply put, if you want change, if you want a new direction, you cannot take the same people, change their seats, give them a new title, and expect different results. It just doesn't work that way. And so I think we're going to have a positive year in terms of some balance coming to Beacon Hill. I think folks are hungry for it. I think they're ready for it. But there's no question that we're not going to walk in tomorrow with a 50-50 Senate or a 50-50 House. I mean, we got to be realistic to know that's not going to happen. And so what we do need to do is we need to build some relationships and forge coalitions on issues that we can all find common ground. Now, that's not going to be every single issue, and we have to be cognizant of that there's going to, continue to be major on some major issues, and we may not find common ground on every issue. But I've got to have hope, and I use that term in my own way, not the way it's been going the last 8 years. I've got to have hope that, with the fact we haven't created a net new job in Massachusetts, with the fact that businesses don't want to set up shop here, with the fact that, companies are leaving if they're given the choice and they're given an alternative, that will be a red flag to folks in the context of some gains for, I think, some Republican candidates this year, that folks are tired of the same old, and let's sit down at the table and let's get something done.
Certainly.
If we have, we have a strong governor in the corner office that understands those issues, then I certainly think that we're going to be able to get some things done, and we're going to make some progress. But it's not going to be without effort, and it's not going to be without 150% commitment and a lot of work and bringing people to the table. But what I've long talked about is I believe in partnership, and I'm going to forge and continue to build upon the partnerships that I've created over my public and private careers. I've got good partnerships in the business community. I'm going to leverage those to bring those people to the table. Let's talk, to create some good ideas. I'm going to do the same with selectmen and school committee members. You've got a lot of bright folks that are involved in a number of different sectors within public and private arenas, and we just got to go out and reach out to them and say, hey, feed us some ideas. Let's listen to your ideas and let's foster some awareness. This isn't tough stuff.
Right.
But it does require leadership, and unfortunately, for the last 8 years, we haven't had a ton of that.
No, you haven't. And again, getting back to all the candidates I've interviewed, one candidate I interviewed, they said, the politicians, they get elected and they just serve other politicians. And some of the ideas that you just said about going back to the cities and towns and saying, come on, let's get together, let's meet, let's solve these problems. You're right, it's not brain surgery, and it is going to take some work, and it is going to take some time. But I think it's a time, right now is the best time. You guys got to capitalize on it, because there is that angst that's out there amongst the public that they're just completely sick and tired of it, and they're not getting anywhere. We're not getting anywhere. And you make a really great point. No new jobs for 8 years. I actually just got a new job, but I've been unemployed for like the last year. And it's what's nice is it's helped me really boost my show. I get to spend a lot of extra time doing that, and I enjoy that. But it doesn't exactly pay the bills. And I'm a guy that has a large resume, and I mean, heck, I've built my own radio show, so there's a lot of experience in there. And so we're at a situation now where you've got this pool of people that are quite idle. And I think there's a lot of, well, I know I feel that way. There's a bit of anger going on out there, and which is why I'm throwing my weight behind a lot of you candidates, because I'm having that faith too. And thank you so much for pointing all of that stuff out. Let's move on a little bit here and switch gears. House Bill 4376, the gun bill. It's waiting for the governor to sign. But it's not as brutal as DeLeo had initially scared us with. I mean, I thought we were looking at another Connecticut going on here, but the bill ended up being watered down. It ended up getting a lot of stuff repaired in the bill so that basically they're not going to be taking the guns away. And you're an avid sportsman, so let's talk Second Amendment. Let's talk gun rights, and let's hear your official campaign position on that.
Yeah, the bill that passed, wasn't as bad, to your point, as the original proposal. But isn't it unfortunate that that's the way we have to actually compare and contrast bills?
That's the point. Why do we have to have a bill in the first place? Right.
Listen, I am all about tackling mental health issues, not all about reducing crime. No one will be stronger on those issues than I am. But here's the problem, Chris. This bill didn't do either.
Right.
And, I think the bill did some okay things. I like the fact that we've gotten rid of the duplication in the licensing process.
Yeah.
I like the fact that, your license security doesn't expire if you've submitted for a renewal. There's some okay stuff. I like the fact that you don't need a FID card to get pepper spray. But you know what? We could have tackled those issues in the separate bills that had been sponsored by folks like Kim Ferguson and others, over the last couple of years. We didn't need this big, large monstrosity. And so for me, it's simply just an effort by a number of folks who just don't understand the real issues to attempt to try and, push for more gun control. And I say to folks all the time, and my district is a very friendly district to sportsmen. We've got a lot of, law-abiding gun owners in my district. I'm one of them. I'm the only gun owner in my race. So it's something that I'm actually, very personal to and understand very much. And I'll tell you, right now, those are the folks that, these laws make it more difficult for. And those aren't the folks that are committing the crimes.
That's right.
So, we want to be serious talking about gun control, and it's only going to impact folks like me and others throughout my district. And I'm sorry, I just don't got a lot of energy left for those conversations.
I know. Yeah, it's becoming tiresome. It's like, oh god. As soon as I heard about Sandy Hook and well, look what's going on in Ferguson and some of it just. I think there was another shooting. I don't have it here, but there was just another shooting somewhere, and every time I think to myself, oh, here we go, here we go. It's just another in for them to just ratchet it up. And this is the thing about legislation. I mean, look at Common Core, look at the gun bills, look at even the stuff that's going on with the illegals. They pass all these bills and legislation. They never actually tackle the root problem. It's just more. It's just piling more on top of piling more and top of piling more. And you're right. All it does is it just affects people like you and me and the guy next door who's just trying to make his way through the world. Go ahead.
Our legislature has a great track record of trying to go after the symptoms as opposed to the problem.
Right.
And I'm all ears to talk about reducing crime. I'm all ears to talk about making sure the bad guys don't get the guns. But let's actually have those conversations. Once again, you've got a bill that was brought to the table that, at the end of the day, wasn't as bad as the original bill, but it's still a bill I wouldn't have supported. Yeah. It's still a bill that that doesn't actually address the real problem. And unfortunately, for some, they look at it as a victory simply because it wasn't as bad as the original proposal. But for me, my answer is there was a better way to tackle some of the things we wanted to tackle. And there are a number of other ways we can tackle the things this didn't tackle, and this bill, just didn't do it.
I'm of the mind that I say that I'm going to say this to you. I've said it to all the other candidates talked to. I'm going to talk about it at the symposium. That we start to peel back. I mean, we get in there again. You look at things line by line, bill by bill, and we start peeling back. We just because it's almost an oppressive weight that's on top of everybody's shoulder. It's like they say, oh, the legislature passed 89 bills last quarter. It's like, why? Why? How about you don't pass any bills? How about you don't add more and add more and add more, because it's really becoming difficult for all of us. And I want to talk about I want to throw that at what about our liberties? What about our freedoms? I mean, I'm talking old-fashioned Constitution here. It seems like our state legislature, our federal government, and we're seeing it in various cities and towns, that they really don't care about your personal rights or, oh, that's nice that you people showed up for this meeting. Now have a nice day. We're going to vote anyway for this thing. It's like it's like there's a disconnect going on there. Are you seeing that as well?
I'm of the mindset that every legislator has to operate day in and day out with the Bill of Rights right on their mind. I mean, that is absolutely the way I've always operated. That's the way the legislators need to operate. I do think that you have a number of folks with a warped view of what that means. And certainly, I think that's what ultimately leads to some of the results we've seen. So we've got to make sure that those are the folks that we're looking at and making sure that they're not allowed to just kind of get away with some of their proposals.
I think what they
what it comes back to, Chris, simply put, is you need balance.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to have people that are watching the shop and making sure that that things are being handled in a proper way. And it gets me back to the fact that are there a number of legislators that operate without thinking of the Constitution? Are there a number of legislators that don't operate thinking about the Bill of Rights? Yeah, there probably are. And part of the problem is that there's no ability to kind of shine a light on those cast of characters, if you will, because you just don't have a minority party that's large enough to be able to open those dialogues and open those discussions. Mm-hmm. And that's when I'm out knocking doors, and I'm not just knocking Republican doors. I go to independents, and I hit Democrats too. And what I say is, listen, folks, regardless of whether or not we agree 100% on the issues, we have to agree that imbalanced government is not good government. And I can't get a person that says to me that I'm wrong on that.
Right.
And even the Democrats say, yeah, I mean, look at, we've had it all. We've had every constitutional office. We've had every statewide position. We've had every federal position. We've had 85% of the legislature. I mean, how can we really blame anybody but ourselves?
Yeah.
And, my response to that is it's true. And that's why balance is so critical. I mean, I'm running against a 13-year veteran of Beacon Hill. And she's a nice person. She truly is. I've known her for years in some social settings, and I really think she's a nice person. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, she doesn't vote the way our district would expect her to vote. She's not voting to stop benefits to illegals. She's not voting to send more of our tax dollars through local aid back to our communities. She's not voting to ensure we don't raise taxes. She's voting the way Bobby DeLeo expects her to vote.
Yeah.
And, I say to folks all the time, listen, I'm going to be a senator that stands with you not some of the time. And I'm going to be with you all the time. And that started right on this campaign. And people have said, you know what? We like that. We're ready for that.
What do you think these people are thinking, though, on Beacon Hill when they do these things? Is again getting back to the disconnect. What are these people thinking? Oh, let's go ahead and pass that bigger tax bill. Let's come up with this idea where we tie the gasoline tax into inflation. They all look at each other and go, yeah, that's a great idea, and they all jump on board. I mean, is there nobody in the room going, wait a minute, guys? I mean, seriously, really?
There are, but there aren't enough of them.
Yeah.
That gets me back to the fact that you need balance. You look at the early 1990s, and history does have a funny way of repeating itself. But you look at the early 1990s. Bill Weld came into the governorship with a whole new wave of Republican legislators. In fact, enough in the state Senate to sustain a veto. And what he was able to do, in effect, was cut taxes 27 times.
Yeah.
What he was able to do was block a number of tax increases that were going to be pushed upon by the Speaker and the Senate President. So it's not that there aren't folks there that don't want to stop it. It's that there aren't
enough of them. Right.
And, that's why I made the decision to run, because, listen, I could continue to move about in the private sector, and I've done well in the private sector, and I've had a great career, and I've worked for a wonderful company, and I've had some great opportunities, and I've worked hard for every one of them. And I could have stayed there, and that would have been an easy route for me to take in terms of not making a career change. But my concern was that the opportunities that I've had, the chances that I've had to work in the private sector and to find good jobs and to be able to build a career, my concern is that if we don't change the direction of our state government today, not tomorrow, not next year, but today, if we don't change it immediately, then the opportunities I had, the jobs that I was able to secure, the businesses that I've been able to work for, they're not going to exist anymore.
No.
If they don't exist anymore, then Massachusetts, will head further backward than in some ways I think we've already headed over the last 8 years. And it's a state I really do love. It's home. It's a place I grew up. It's a place that I really care about. And I just couldn't stand on the sidelines and say, yeah, it is what it is. We're just going to let it happen. I had to put myself and invest myself into this race to say, hey, listen, I know I'll only be 1 out of 40 in the state Senate. And I know that, I'll probably only be 1 out of 7 or 8 in the Republican caucus in the state Senate. But you know what? That's a start. That's a push in the right direction. That's a push for balance. And if I don't do it, then who else will? And it's time we make some change. And, that's why I made the decision.
Good for you. Good for you. No, really, seriously, good for you. And it's refreshing to hear a candidate talking like that. I'm so blessed to have talked to all of you guys, and we're all on the same page, and it's really, really good. I have a very good feeling for this year that I think that we are going to see a sea change just right here in the state of Massachusetts. Let's switch gears a little bit here. And you had mentioned it earlier, illegals, in-state tuition, driver's licenses. Again, you can talk about that. I know we're all on the same board on that. One of my big concerns is the flights that are coming in. I know that they've been stopped. A lot of people have been protesting them, but there are some that are already here. Now, if I want to tie in the illegals and getting back to schools, You know, you, me, the guy next door, we have to immunize our kids, get the birth certificate, make sure the doctor's checkups are up to date, make sure all our ducks are in a row. We have to fill out 9,000 reams of paper to make sure that the schools know who we are, where we are, what we are, and everything. Dot the I's and cross the T's. The illegals, though, they're going to be given a pass. We hear it in the news all the time that they're supposed to be listed, or there's homeless, or don't worry, the government will come up with a form for them. And I mean, how fair is this for the tax-paying citizen who, again, has to jump through all these hoops to make sure they're complying, and meanwhile, these other people just get a free pass? This is one of the biggest things that I think angers not only me, but average citizens. Yes, we want to help illegals. Yes, we want to give an opportunity to people less fortunate. We're all fine with that. But now you're talking something that is just fundamentally unfair, and I'd like to hear your position on that.
This is something that I hear daily as I'm out in the district, knocking doors, attending events and meeting with folks. This is something that is on everybody's mind, and it should be, because it's a big issue. Let's get down to brass tacks. At the end of the day, this problem rests solely on the desk of the President of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, the President and the Congress, if they were just willing to have a conversation, could solve this problem immediately. I've had a number of conversations with Sheriff Evangelitis out of Worcester County.
Yeah.
I was with the sheriff yesterday. We were campaigning in Rutland together. And he was recently down on the border. Of course, he went down as sheriff because it was right at the time when we expected that the governor was going to allow a number of these undocumented minors into the Commonwealth. And so he went down as the sheriff, and he came back, obviously disturbed as a sheriff, but angry as a United States citizen. Because what he saw down there was essentially a Border Patrol agency that's had their legs cut out beneath them. If you look and I've done quite a bit of research on this topic, if you look at some of the executive orders that have come from this president, specifically the 2012 executive order referred to as the Deferred Action Law, you will see that this executive order, again, never voted on by the Congress, has basically said to the Border Patrol and to ICE, you will not deport anybody that comes from a country non-contiguous to the United States of America. And what we have found now is that 85% of those that are now here or coming in illegally are coming from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador.
Sure.
And those countries are making up now 85% of the illegals crossing the border. And what's happening is you have, coyotes in Mexico that are basically selling our poor Border Patrol process to folks in these countries for $5,000, $10,000, offering them an escort to the border. These folks are being dumped on the border, and because the president has said, you, Border Patrol and ICE, cannot deport them, they're actually taking these folks and simply processing them into the country and letting them go free. It is absurd and unbelievable. So this isn't even, folks look at this and they think that all people are just breaking in. Well, they're breaking in. No, we're letting them in. You actually have coyotes in the country of Mexico that are literally creating businesses now, for profit, and selling our poor Border Patrol issues. It's crazy. And it could be solved immediately if the President and the Congress have the will to do it. And so then you step into, now the role I'm running in, and what, can I do as a state senator? Well, the simple fact of the matter is, Massachusetts, as a state senator, we have a responsibility to our taxpayers. We have a responsibility to ensure that our services and our programs and our schools are going to support our residents, our citizens, our taxpayers. And the fact that the governor would even consider, taking on the issue that the federal government has created is very disconcerting to me. Don't get me wrong. We all are humanitarian. We all have big hearts. We all want to help people in need.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, Massachusetts has some really big problems. We have homeless people living in hotels at yours and my expense. We have a Department of Children and Families organization that has had children literally die under the watch.
Thank you. That's right.
I mean, if we can't solve those problems, how in the world are we expected to try to solve the problems of the federal government?
Exactly.
It's absurd to me. And again, we're getting back to what I said earlier in the broadcast. These aren't hard problems to fix. You just need leadership, and we just don't have it. It's unfortunate, but I think the people are ready for leadership, and that's what I'm looking to provide.
Give me your opinion, and it's a kind of a controversial question. Do you think that this was intentional on the part of the president? You hear stories about how, they're going to give him amnesty, and now they're all going to vote Democrat. And Gutierrez, I've got it on one of my playlists on my YouTube channel, that Gutierrez, he almost spilled the beans right there on a Fox News. Go to the White House. And he's like, I'm going to go to the White House and have a conversation, and I think by the end of the day, we could have anywhere from 5 to 10 million new Democratic voters. And it's like, I almost spit out my breakfast when I heard him say that. And this is what I mean. Do you think that this is intentional, that they're looking to do this to get more Democrat voters?
I hope that wouldn't be the MO. I certainly can't.
Just give your opinion. If you're not sure, though, that's fine too.
I can't get into the president's psyche. There's a lot of things he does, a lot of things he says, a lot of decisions he makes that I don't understand. And this, probably falls into that category. I just don't know what his thinking is, but that's generally a consistent theme as of late with a lot of the decisions he's made.
Yeah.
So I would hope that's not the MO, but I don't get into I don't get into this. I don't get into to this argument that we're going to just make up assumptions based upon certain actions. For me, whatever the president's motives are, the results are wrong. Right. And for me, we need to solve the problem. And if it's what you've suggested, or it's just carelessness, neither is acceptable to me, quite candidly.
Sure.
And so, I'm not quite sure what exactly his thinking about it is. The one thing I am sure about is that he certainly hasn't appeared willing to solve the problem. And my hope is that, with a new Senate and with a new Congress that will come in, in the new year, that we'll have some new blood, some folks that are willing to tackle this issue, and that we can actually push to solve it. But unfortunately, the president has proven, much to I think a number of his supporters' chagrin, that he's just not been an effective manager of issues and an effective leader for the country. And I'll tell you right now, this is a time when we need both management and leadership more than we've ever needed it.
So what's next for you on the campaign trail? So, primary's right around the corner. So what's next for you, and how are things looking? How do you feel things are going for you on the campaign?
We feel great. We have had just positive days each and every day. I was out with Representative Smola today, all day in Palmer. We were in neighborhoods and at a number of local businesses. We concluded the night before I got on this show with a standout. The response has been fantastic. I was Sheriff Evangelitis yesterday in Rutland with a similar schedule, and the response again was fantastic. So we're feeling real good, and we're going to continue to work hard for the next few weeks as we lead up into the primary, and then of course all the way through to November. But it's like anything; it doesn't come without a lot of effort, a lot of time invested, and a lot of hard work, and we're doing all of that right now. But I couldn't feel better about where we're at and where we're headed. We'll have a major announcement that will occur tomorrow morning on the front steps of Spencer Town Hall, and we're just going to continue to pound the pavement, meet as many people as possible, and when they hear our message, and many have, they've been real receptive to it. And again, it's a message of common sense, it's a message of reason, but it's a positive message. I do think Massachusetts can get back on the right track. I just think that we need to have the will to do it. We need to join together. We need to get new blood and infuse new ideas into our state government. And I think we're going to be able to do that this year, and I'm excited about it.
Well, I'm seeing you everywhere, all over social network, and I see all the photographs and the standouts that you do in the events that you are appearing at. It's obviously as one of the OGs that I have to employ, doing the interviews that I do. I got to kind of track you guys and stick up with the issues and pay attention to what's going on. And yeah, I'm seeing you everywhere, and it's absolutely amazing what all the candidates that I've had on the show are doing. And I know you're really busy, and I know that you're probably not going to be able to attend it. And the invitation's still open for August 30th, sir. You're more than welcome. Bring your staff, bring whoever you want, and I'd love to have you there to answer some of the questions and talk to the audience about that. Why don't you give your website and any other information to my audience here, and I'll post everything up like I always do on the video so they can access all that. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Yeah, folks can, as you say, follow us through social media, but it's all accessible at our website, www.MikeValanzola.com. Mike, B as in Victor, ALANZOLA.com. Folks can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and even LinkedIn, Chris. We're getting, making sure we're connected to the business folks.
Yeah, there's really no way you can't get hold of anybody anymore when you really think about it.
I had a funny quick story. I had someone say to me the other day, we would hold of you.
What?
Really? I said, geez, I figure I'm the easiest person in the whole world to get a hold of right now.
On the internet.
We had a good chuckle about it, but we are campaign at MikeValanzola.com, 413-245-1472 is the campaign line. So email, website, social media, telephone, we're accessible, through it all. And, I've had a number of folks reach out, and, some that have asked questions on certain issues, a number that have offered their support. Representative Sloan and I, we got out of our cars tonight. We set up a stand out near the Mass Turnpike, exit 8 in Palmer, and before we knew it, we had 12 people there. So it just, folks have been really engaged and really energetic and excited. We're just going to keep pushing forward and bringing forward the message, and we feel real good about the response.
Mike, thank you so much for coming on to the show, and good luck to you.
It was my pleasure, and we'll look forward to doing it again. And you have a
Certainly, after the primaries, if you're still in and stuff like that, I do. This thing is going to keep going all the way up until November anyway, the whole interview series anyway. So I'd love to have you on. You have more than welcome. Always an open invitation, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Valanzola. He's running for state senate as a Republican. Mike, thanks a lot. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks so much.
And as I said, I love doing this job. I just absolutely love it.